Folks, a new study has been done on Washington, D.C. Desis. It is called South Asians in the Nation's Capital. It was performed by an organization called SAALT and APALRC. I'm going to introduce you to the Executive Director of SAALT, Deepa Iyer. Welcome to our studios.
Thank you for having us.
And the next is Nadia Firozvi, and welcome to our studio.
Thank you very much for having me.
Now, tell us about your organization, starting with you, exactly what it stands for and what is the mission.
Sure. So I work for the APALRC, which is the Asian Pacific American Legal Resource Center. It is the only organization in this particular area, the D.C. metropolitan region, that focuses on the legal service needs and education and advocacy needs of the Asian Pacific Islander community.
And it's a nonprofit organization?
It is a nonprofit legal service organization, yes.
Fantastic. How about you, Deepa?
So Ramesh, I'm with an organization called SAALT, and that stands for South Asian Americans Leading Together. The acronym is SAALT. And we are a national nonprofit organization based in the DC area, and our goal is to address issues that are faced by South Asian communities all over this country. That includes people from Bangladesh, Bhutan, India, Nepal, Pakistan, Sri Lanka.
The entire spectrum of the South Asia.
That's right.
So now we did the study. What did we find? What are some of the findings?
Well, there were quite a few findings, actually. While there was a tremendous amount of work in terms of researching other communities, we found that there wasn't as much done with the South Asian community. And we saw it as a perfect opportunity for our two organizations to partner together to do more research, particularly on the South Asian community that was both working and living in the District of Columbia. A number of things that we found were several unmet needs, for example. So from one standpoint, there was a large subsection of the people who we surveyed that needed assistance accessing health care and other health services, individuals who needed legal services, individuals who had faced bias and discrimination, individuals who needed ESL classes, things along those lines. And so we found a number of things.
Give us some of the examples that you learned.
Sure. So as part of this project, we conducted a needs assessment, and we asked a range of questions of people, and we translated those surveys into South Asian languages. We also did focus groups and interviews with a subsection of the population. We talked to young professionals, we talked to taxi drivers, we talked to domestic workers, we talked to students. So we were able to get some narratives, and some of the narratives that we heard, and I'll give you one specific one about a small business owner who runs a store in the district. And he said that he's very concerned about public safety issues regarding crime that might happen at his store, for example. And what he's interested in is making sure that the DC Metropolitan Police Department understands some of the issues he faces and actually investigates some of the crimes that occur. So part of this report is not just to provide information, but it's also to provide some recommendations to government agencies and policymakers to say, look, these are some of the issues that affect this growing new community, and we really like you to pay attention to some of these needs in the work that you do.
You're South Asian, and APALRC is your like Asian Pacific.
Yes.
So you two serve different communities.
In a way, we serve the larger Asian community, and SALT definitely serves the South Asian community, but within that larger Asian community, particularly is the South Asian community.
Okay.
And so my organization had a strong interest in wanting to do more with the South Asian community.
Tell me a little makeup of SALT. Who runs it? Who funds it?
So, as I mentioned earlier, SALT is a national, nonpartisan, nonprofit organization. And the way that our organization is structured is that we have a board of directors that includes South Asians from around the country, from different regions of the South Asian subcontinent. We also have a staff, and currently our staff is 4 full-time. SALT coordinates a national coalition of 39 local South Asian organizations around the country.
Name a few that folks here around Washington metro area might know.
Sure. So some of them include ASHA for Women, which is an organization that addresses domestic violence issues. Another is an organization called CHAI, which actually addresses mental health needs of the South Asian community that are often not met at all. We also have organizations in LA, San Francisco, Chicago, New York, New Jersey, Atlanta. And so what we've been able to do is bring these organizations together so we can speak with a united voice on issues like immigration, on civil rights issues, on healthcare reform, etc.
Now, how about what is the makeup and who works in your organization?
Sure. So we are a legal service organization primarily that's physically located in D.C., but we do work in Maryland, D.C., and Virginia. And so we have a board very similar to the way that SAALT has a board. It's made up of Asian Pacific Islanders from primarily this area, lawyers, non-lawyers, all kinds of different people.
And who funds your organization?
So we are funded by a variety of sources, from government entities to sort of counties to private funders, corporations, individuals, different foundations.
Where do you get your funding?
Very similar to the APA Legal Resource Center, we get our funding from foundations, from corporations, and from individual donors and members. We believe that it's very important for individuals in the community to support organizations like these. That is a real investment that we look for. If you believe that SAALT or the APALRC are important organizations that need to exist because the work that we're providing, the information, the services are very critical, then we really ask for people to support.
Now, focusing on this report, tell me first, what's the population of South Asians in the city, Washington, D.C.?
We know from 2007 census data that the Indian community is at around 4,200 people. Now, this is 2007. We also know that there are many Pakistanis, Bangladeshis, Sri Lankans, Nepalis that have made their homes in the district. So we have this baseline number, but we know that the number is much larger. The other thing to keep in mind is that the South Asian community is actually the second largest Asian community in the District of Columbia.
Who's the top?
The Chinese community. And in the entire region, the DC metro area, which includes parts of Maryland and Virginia, this area is actually home to the 5th largest South Asian community in the country. So we have this information that the community is growing, the community is making its home here, but what we didn't really know is what are the needs of this community? Who is this community? And what are some of the trends that we're seeing? And that's why we really embarked upon the project that led to the release of this report, and what we hope will be future reports like this.
Give me some highlights of this report.
A couple of highlights included, we wanted to look at needs that were unmet, and we also wanted to look at the ways that we felt that the community was doing well. We surveyed 197 respondents, and we found that about 23% of those 197 indicated that access to health services was very difficult for them. Health services could include, obviously medical services, but also other information related to health services, from domestic violence to other manners of issues. We also found that individuals needed more access to legal services, access to vocational training, access to ESL classes, all kinds of things. And so that was one sort of small subsection of what it is that we found. We also found that individuals were doing fairly well economically, but still also had problems.
Oh, okay. Now, that's what I was going to ask. Are there any good news